In the time since you started watching this episode, Jiri Kulich scored another goal.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks for making Locked On Sabres your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Some exciting stuff to get to on today's show. We're going to recap and looking ahead to a couple of forward players. What prospects? Victor Olofsson and Tyson Jost. We're going to break down two players that, spoiler alert, I believe the Sabres should move on from. Both guys. And I'll explain why in a little bit. So stay tuned for that coming up. Joe DiBiase here on today's show at Sneaky Joe Sports. If you want to follow me on Twitter, to reach out to the podcast account on our YouTube channel, you can search us on YouTube and you can find the comment section. You can give us a question, give us a comment. You can do that on our Twitter account as well at Locked On Sabres. We did not participate in a lot of the Amerks and Sabres social media beef that went back and forth between Sabre fans and Amerks fans. And, maybe I'll touch on that. Maybe I'll touch on that in a minute here. Probably worth doing. But I did want to read a couple of comments from our YouTube channel from our last episode. Connor Hellebuyck to the Sabres. Question mark with that rumor from Michael Russo from The Athletic from last weekend. Nothing has happened since then. Now, I did see a couple of Jets fans actually jumped into the comment section, including SK, who said, as a Winnipeg-born Winnipeg Jets fan, you're right. The Jets want to trade Hellebuyck to a team he wants to play for and wants to sign with, and the return will be much higher. Top picks, top prospects. Offer of Krebs, Luukkonen, and a first-round pick is the right offer. And that's how I've been treating this situation. If Hellebuyck gets dealt, Winnipeg's only going to deal him to a team that's going to sign him long-term, because that's the team that's going to give them the proper value back. Otherwise, they can just hold on to the deadline and sell him as a rental. So whether the Sabres want him long-term or not, they have to pay the premium price of a team that is wanting to sign him for 8 years. So that's the price, I believe, on the table for Connor Hellebuyck, if there is any. So Hellebuyck. Still like the idea. Now, this is not leaked into our accounts yet. Maybe this will happen here. The Rochester Americans. There was a very, what do I want to call this account? It's an obnoxious account. That is a Amerks blog that is they've always been like this over the years, where this inferiority complex about the Rochester Americans, and it pops up every year for some reason or another. And this happened again on Twitter, actually, on Thursday afternoon, where the account tweeted something along the lines of, hey, because the Amerks sold out their arena for the playoff game on Wednesday night, that they're a farm team. Like as if to say that anyone that says they're a farm team is an idiot. In fact, I think he used the word clowns. And of course, that's ridiculous. It's not meant to be disparaging to the Rochester Americans. Are we new? What are we new here? It's the NHL AHL system. The Amerks, in fact, I looked this up to see, was there even ever a time where they were like an independent team or whatnot? And nope, their inception in 1956 came when the Montreal Canadiens, running them, had them serve as the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're weird arrangement. But the Leafs had them as their affiliate when they entered the AHL in 1956, before the Sabres even existed. That's why the AHL exists. Would the AHL exist without the NHL affiliation? Maybe. But there's a lucrative financial relationship between these two sides. And if the AHL ever has issues, then maybe they wouldn't have survived COVID. We don't need to get too far into it, though. It's just, we don't need to pin Sabre fans against Amerks fans. We don't. They're a farm team. It's fine. They're having great success. And listen, hey, I actually think a big reason why. In fact, I've talked to people with in the organizations about this, that I think a big reason why that game was a sellout on Wednesday night is that the PGA Championship right here. This is an idea I had too for Wednesday. The PGA Championship was right next door. If you're a Buffalo Sabre fan, what do you want to do? You want to go check out the PGA Championship for the day, and then hey, let me check out the Amerks game at night. Or Sabre fans that are making that hour and a half drive to go see Jiri Kulich, guys to talk of the town. That's contributing to this as well. So it's a great relationship. We don't need to pin one against the other, but the Amerks are playing great, sweeping the Toronto Marlies, and they are on to the conference finals. They have not been to the conference finals in a really long time. And they've not won, of course, the Calder Cup since 1996. So they're getting very close. Get through the Hershey Bears, and they're on to the AHL finals. But they swept the Marlies. Jiri Kulich in the series clincher scores his sixth goal of the playoffs in 6 games. He has scored in every playoff game that he has played. And my question about Jiri Kulich right now, how big a story should he be? He's a 20-year-old playing at an age in the AHL that few ever play. Like, guys barely even touch the league at this age. 19 years old, by the way, I should say. He's 19 years old. Guys very rarely even attempt to play in the AHL at that age. And Kulich does, as a late first round pick, sets all type of historic precedents in the regular season. Then you get to the postseason. He dealt with that injury, comes back. He scored in every single game he's played, and the Amerks are on fire, and they're on their way to they're on going to the conference finals now. I think this guy's a big story. And I saw NHL.com wrote a piece about him. He's getting a little bit of national attention. Of course, Stanley Cup playoffs is going to take precedent over that. But he is really earning his job in Buffalo for next season. He's earning his job in Buffalo, and I think he's already giving the Sabres plenty of reason to want to give him every opportunity to make the team next year. I've gone back and forth on this. I originally thought, oh, no doubt he's going to be on the team next year. And then I went to, maybe not. Savoy, we got to find room. And Kulich, now that he's on this run, I'm back to thinking he's on this team at the beginning of next season. He is unbelievable. The goal he scores to win it for the Amerks, or it wasn't to win it. It was not the game-winning goal, but goes in with speed, cuts right to left, gets to the high slot, and rips a wrist shot through the goaltender for an incredible finish. The finish on his shot is unbelievable. Now, Kulich has been great. Isaac Rosen was great too. 4 points. And he was the game's number 3 star. Kulich, the game's number 1 star. Rosen, the number 3 star. That's the cool thing about the Amerks. The farm system is working, and the kids are the ones that are helping drive this team and their success. And in that game against the Marlies, it was both of those guys, both of the Sabres' first-round picks. One other thing about the Amerks. Keep an eye on Matthew Savoy. Chad DiDomenicis from Expected Buffalo tweeted this out, that with the Winnipeg Ice season maybe coming to a close soon, they're down 3-1 in their series. Matthew Savoy can become eligible to finish the season in Rochester. I would want to bet he does. Chad had the same idea because of how great he was in the WHL playoffs. He was unbelievable in the WHL playoffs, and I think he would help the Amerks a lot. So maybe Matthew Savoy, another Sabre first-round pick, can come in and help the Amerks out. The schedule, by the way, put it up on our YouTube channel here. The schedule for the Amerks. Game 1, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock in Hershey. The Amerks will not be home again. If you're thinking of, okay, I want to drive out, see Kulich, maybe I can see Savoy, Rosen. If you want to drive out to Rochester to see some of these games, your next opportunity to do so will be a week from Saturday. So May 27th, 7:05 in Rochester, and then Monday at 6:05 also in Rochester. So those are your next opportunities to go see the Amerks play. Time out here. When we come back, we'll get into our exit interview series with Victor Olofsson and Tyson Jost. I'll tell you why these are 2 players that I believe are on their way out with the Buffalo Sabres. That's coming up. here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, and we are presented by Game Time. Game Time tickets, if you want to go to those Amerks games, this is an opportunity for you to do that. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets. And my favorite feature of the app, if you go in and you're looking for exactly where you want to sit and you want to see the different angles and the different views and you're scrolling through, it's right there for you. It's super easy, exactly what you're going to be looking at, an exact angle of what your seat is going to entail, photographic evidence so that you know exactly what you're going to get and you can expect to get what you're going to get. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Again, buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. Snag the tickets without the stress of Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Time to get to exit interviews, and we are going to start today's episode with Tyson Jost. Tyson Jost, formerly of the Colorado Avalanche, a waiver claim of Kevin Adams is during the season, and it ended up being one of the more successful waiver claims for the Sabres a very long time. I think everyone liked Tyson Jost, right? Didn't we all like Tyson Jost? He came in, wasn't expecting much, and he did great, I thought. Not playing a big role, 13 minutes a night, and penalty kill. You've got the penalty kill, some defensive role responsibilities, playing on, a third line. In fact, I didn't pull this up, the research of Tyson Jost, but I should. Who his most common line mates were. In fact, part of the reason why I think I didn't even think to look at it, my guess is he played with a lot of different guys throughout the season. Middlestat is probably, though, someone that I'm thinking off the top of my head. Middlestat, I'm guessing he played a lot with. But by the way, all great numbers. In points per game, career high. Goals per game, career high. He was only 4 points off his career high in points, and he played 11 fewer games. So he had a shot. He had a real look at his most points in his career. Now, last season for Tyson Jost, the most minutes played, if Natural Stat Trick wants to cooperate with me on this one, Middlestat. Yeah, no surprise. Casey Middlestat was his most common line mate. So, okay, good. Here's why Jost is interesting. He's a restricted free agent, so they have cost control. 25 years old. The age is not a problem. Positional versatility. Play center. Can play wing. I loved him at 5-on-5. I think he's a guy I'd like the Sabres to keep around on their fourth line or as an extra. But I think he's better than that. I think he needs to be a regular NHLer. And if the Sabres, if they want to do right by him and they want to maximize their value, I think you either make room for him in a lower level trade somewhere else, or you move Jost for a mid to late round pick so that he's able to continue on his NHL career and not be a healthy scratch. The reason why I'd be willing to move off Jost, he's just not a very good penalty killer. That's it. He's not a very good penalty killer. And it's already crowded here with forwards, right? If Okposo and Girgensons don't go anywhere, if one stays, you've got Kulich, you've got Savoy, you got to make room for these guys. And where are you going to make room? And not only that, those are kids coming in you got to make room for. If the Sabres want to improve the penalty kill, a guy like Jost, what is his role on this team? He's actually I like him offensively. I think he's a good stick handler. I think he moves well. He doesn't have a great shot, but it's okay. I think he's a good offensive player. Better. There's more numbers in there, in my opinion, than what's there. And he was a top 10 pick for a reason, so maybe there is. So I think there's more in there. But his job should be strictly two-way game, defensive zone responsibilities and whatnot. And the guy you have in that role, I think you want him to give you more as a penalty killer. So I'd move Jost and pick up a mid-round pick if you can, and bring in, either plug one of the kids into his spot, because again, it's going to be tough and you got to make room here for somebody, or you replace him with a much better penalty killer. That is where I'd be with Tyson Jost. I don't need him to go. I liked him last year. I just think for that role, you need a little bit more in different areas, in different responsibilities, especially on the penalty kill. Penalty kill is king for this point for me. You got to have his spot be a better penalty killer. Maybe they think there's more in there for him. He's not done it his entire career, so maybe they think that, but that's what I would think on Tyson Jost. All right, timeout here. When we come back, Victor Olofsson. Now, this one is much easier for me to evaluate, but he scored 28 goals. We got to get into Victor Olofsson when we come back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, and we are presented by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs, man, I was so excited to see when Bird Dogs was jumping on as a sponsor here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm a big golfer. You see me wear golf clothes a lot on the show, whether it's quarter zips, whether it's hats. You don't see the pants I'm wearing. Now, I'm not wearing them now, but I will. I'll show them off in a little bit in a future episode, because I'm all about the golf joggers now. And Bird Dogs is my go-to. Now, they have plenty of options, though. It's not just for golf. I look better and I feel great. Tons of confidence when I'm wearing Bird Dogs. They're stretchy fabric, makes my legs look good. They're comfier than my shorts and pants. They give me the freedom to wear one pair of shorts or pants on the golf course to a meeting, a date, or hanging out with friends. Really, I've begun wearing them for everything. I'm obsessed. I can tell you I am obsessed. This is the new thing for golfers, by the way. You'll see it on the PGA Tour when you're watching the PGA Championship this week. They're going for the joggers. So you got to get to Bird Dogs. You got to check them out. Bunch of different colors, different designs. Again, so comfortable. I mean, if you just want to go to a business meeting where you normally wear khaki pants or, dress pants, slacks or whatnot, pair of Bird Dogs, super comfortable, and they look great, and they look business casual, they look business appropriate, whatever you need. Bird Dogs is exactly what I'm here to recommend in terms of the pants, golf joggers, and the way of the future for this trend. birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL, and if you enter the promo code LockedOnNHL, they will throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Again, go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL and enter the code LockedOnNHL. All right, final segment here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Victor Olofsson. All right, let's get into Victor Olofsson's season. He was good as a goal scorer, doing what he was supposed to do. 28 goals in 75 games played, 40 points for Victor Olofsson. A guy like many that saw career highs under Don Granato. Career highs in terms of goals with 28 goals scored. Now, we saw a massive drop in assists. 29 assists last year, 12 this year. If he ever was, man, this guy, I've been describing him as this for years. This guy has an elite shot and does not do anything else. That was never more true than this season. Scored goals at a career high rate, assisted at a career low rate. 17% shooting percentage. Whether or not that can hold up to that degree. He's a 13% shot percentage guy for his career. So maybe that is due to come down just a little bit. So Olofsson, here is why everyone's trying to trade Victor Olofsson. It's amazing, and it might sound ridiculous to say, but they don't need more goal scoring. They don't. They've got it covered. Thompson, Skinner, Tuck, Middlestat now even. Cousins, Quinn is going to grow. Peterka is going to grow. Here comes Kulich. Here comes Savoy. They've got scorers everywhere on this team. And the style they play means I think they're always going to be a very offensive team. So, again, ridiculous to say they don't need a 28 goal scorer, but honestly, they don't need a 28 goal scorer in Victor Olofsson. They need a more complete player with his roster spot, or they need, like Jost, one of the kids to go into his roster spot. Was he a bad player this year? No, but I thought it was very telling, and I agreed with this decision. It was very telling that at the end of the year, when the Sabres were playing their most important games, Olofsson was out of the lineup. Olofsson was not in the lineup in their most important games. I think the writing is on the wall. I think that is proof in the pudding that they are about to trade this guy. And also, another reason why that's the case, he's not that young. The age doesn't really fit the rest of the Sabres timeline. A lot of these guys in the Sabres are up and coming, are young, 23 and under. And Olofsson, he actually, in fact, Skinner is the only forward under contract next year that is older than Victor Olofsson. Olofsson is going into his age 28 season, and he's got 1 year left until he's a UFA. Think about it from that perspective. 1 more year, and then you've got to decide at age 29 if you want to sign a 29-year-old Victor Olofsson to an extension. And there's no earthly way that that's going to be a good idea. So, do it now. Cut bait now. He's coming off a career-high goal season. Maximize his value the best he can. You're not going to get a ton for him because GMs are smarter now. But I think you can get something. I don't know what you can get. I don't think you could get that top 4 defenseman that we're hoping the Sabres can get in the offseason for Olofsson. Now, maybe if you pair Olofsson with a first-round pick or you pair Olofsson with a prospect, I think you can get yourself a second-pair defenseman. I don't think you can get a second-pair defenseman on his own, though. But again, maybe there's some dumb GMs in the league once in a while, so maybe I should hold off on that. But Victor Olofsson, I think it's time to move on. He's had a nice little career here for the Sabres. 3 20-goal seasons in 4 years. That's really strong. As a 7th-round pick in 2014, they have gotten everything you could ask out of a 7th-round pick. But I think the time is now to move on from a player that's fine. Well-liked in the locker room. He works hard, but he just doesn't have the athleticism. That's really what it is. The size isn't there. Speed isn't there. The quickness isn't there. He's underwhelming in every single department that is not his shot release. And for that, I think you got to move on from Victor Olofsson. So, got time to go. All right, that's going to do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And for you everydayers, come back next time on the show. We continue to round out the forwards. Jordan Greenway, the Sabres deadline acquisition. We'll break down Jordan Greenway's season. Of course, we'll get into the playoffs a little bit more of the conference finals. And we're going to have 2 other players too, Kyle Okposo and Zemgus Girgensons. We're going to do all 3 of those forwards, round out the forward group for this season. So that's coming up on our next show. So come back for that. Thanks everybody for listening. If you want to comment or a question, Locked On Sabres on YouTube or at Locked On Sabres on Twitter.